Game number 2 is live. We have a 1-0 lead in our Terran versus Terran for the Canadian player. Starting to the top right, we have his opponent down 1 game in the series. It is Xenocider for Team Evil Genius. Looked pretty promising in game number 1. Was off to a good start with a great defense against the Banshee harass of his opponent, but then suddenly Koma was getting into a great position, and that won him the game in the end, keeping the pressure constantly on the Evil Genius. We have the Canadian player starting to the bottom left in purple, taking the 1-0 in the series. So congratulations first of all to Koma for being able to take 1 map, but he needs to take another one. He needs to win a second map if he wants to go to WCS. He has 2 chances to do so. Xenocider has to win 2 in a row now. So gonna be interesting to see if he's able to make that happen. Right now, looking at game number 2, we do not have the early gas that Koma got in game number 1. We have him starting things off with the barracks here. So yeah, it surprised me actually a little bit. I didn't expect him to do this well. I was really thinking that Xenocider would be able to leave his mark on game number 1 after he just defended so beautifully well against the early Banshees. But just from the positioning, Koma was better in the last game, and Xenocider was struggling a little bit to stabilize after that. He was going for mech, and he just didn't really get the stuff out that he needed. The drops in the main base, good timings there for Koma too, like arriving right at the drop spot before those 3 missile turrets were completed. Let's say like 10 seconds later and it's a completely different game, but as it happened, it was just exactly what Koma needed. So well done, like saw an opportunity, took it and was rewarded for it. But now it's game number 2, and we have Yonsu, which is a smaller map. Both of them are immediately scouting, trying to have a quick look there. It's like looking what exactly happens there, and we have the commitment to Reapers by Koma here. Koma going for a Reaper opening, giving him, of course, vision of his opponent's play. Can go for the Reaper expand here, and Xenocider, in comparison to his opponent, delaying his gas once again a little bit. Koma himself also getting a bit more of a defensive gas than the last one. We were talking about gas first into barracks in game number 1, but right now let's see how heavily he's committed to the Reapers, how many he's going to build. 2 or 3, and then you can always just try to snipe the occasional SCV and maybe pressure potential expansion a little bit. But you have to be very careful against your opponent's Marines in the high ground. Or with 2 Reapers you can do a lot. But it results that Xeno gets his expansion up a little bit faster, just a tiny little bit. But not to a degree that it really is going to come into play or will decide the game or anything. So yeah, we have that Koma current. Oh, there we go. SCV already taken out, so he has to send another one over, and that made up for the slower expand. If you look at the timing right now, it's basically oops. There we go. It's nearly the same. I completely failed with my timing comparison here, so we try and do it again. It's 46 versus 50, so a little bit faster for Koma right now. How dare those people build additional structures that screw up my production tab and I can't compare it. Damn it! Yeah. So much for that. Another snipe here. It gets another SCV. That's 2 SCVs. That's 3 SCVs. And that is maybe even another Marine. No, not quite. Jump and jump, but one of the Reapers bites the dust. But 3 Harvesters killed. That's absolutely worth it, especially since 2 of those Harvesters were building the command center. And I don't think he realized it yet. Nope, now he did. Moved back and put it back to work. And immediately Xeno with another command center. He's like, yeah, if you delay my command centers, you know what? I'm just gonna get another one. Especially since he scouted his opponent's base already. Well, there we go. 1 lone SCV. That's James Bond SCV, ninjaing its way in and paying for it. So maybe not James Bond after all. James Bond wouldn't die. He would just take his opponent down like right away. But okay, so for now what we have is a faster 3rd command center for Xenocider, playing a little bit ballsy with that. He will have to play the more defensive part, at least for the early stages of the match, whereas we once again see the double gas here taken with a quick tech lab at the starport. So is it gonna be Cloak, or is he just gonna go for a Raven here? And we're gonna see the Raven. So not gonna go for a delayed Cloak attack, gonna play the Raven game instead. And well, let's see what we're gonna see in terms of like expansion play. Right now, Koma pulling a little bit ahead in overall supply, but not by much, and it should not come into play by a long shot. But what is really important is how he's going to react once he realizes that there's a third command center, because this will allow Xenocider to not only get the additional energy for scans and mules, it will give him the opportunity to build 3 SCDs at a time, get ahead in the harvester count, even before he decides to really saturate his base. So Xenocider will play a little bit more defensive than Koma, but he will get ahead as a result of it, if Koma doesn't do any damage. And that's of course what Koma tries to do, but Hellion versus Hellion, that's usually a numbers game if you don't have the great positioning, and right now Xenocider has the high ground advantage, get the shots off first, and also can force his opponent into a funnel, and therefore he is taking that. But as you can see, we have SCVs already starting to repair, and that's always nice if you see that. So Xenocider not hesitating for a second there. He likes his Hellions and is making sure that they will survive a little bit longer. Looking now at what we see for Koma. Koma is currently in the main base, also getting his third command center. A lot later, of course, than Xenocider, but he's getting that regardless. And I think he scanned his opponent's base already, so that happened. And we have also a scan that went down in the main base of Koma. So Koma's reaction to seeing the third CC is getting a third on his own. And he seems to be the one who goes into mech this time. We have him with a double armory here. So looks like we're going to see a mech play from Koma, whereas in game number 1 he decided to be the bio player. And on the other hand, we have on the top right, what do we have for Xenocider? He is looking at a second factory already and is getting his third. Both of them are trying to make it work, but still, that could be a bit. That's a very positional game then. But ooh, that's a lot of Hellions, by the way. 11 Hellions against 8, and both of them already utilizing scans. That's the one thing that you will always see in Terran versus Terran, that both players are just trying to get a positional advantage by using the energy on the orbital commands for scans. Minerals only get you so much, and yeah, that helps quite a bit. But with the mech game that we have, Koma will have a significant advantage in upgrades, because he is going for double upgrades, whereas Xenocider just now started his own armory and only one. So he won't be able to get the double upgrades out that fast, or at all, and he will not get his upgrades as fast as his opponent. And upgrades for mech is a general thing. That's not only a ground thing, that's also applying to your air units, and therefore an air battle might be won, or will be potentially won by Koma as well as a result of that. So quite important there too. Having a quick look at the economy in general, a bit of a lead here in the harvesters for Koma, but the earlier base, oops, there was a drop in the main base. Trying to go in there, but yeah, those 2 Hellions are not going to do too much. So 10 harvesters killed, taking a few down. The harvester count now 50 to 54. So in total, not really all that much that he was able to achieve here. Looking quickly at the income though, it really shows a bit, but that's also a result of the orbital here not being okay. Here it minus out again. It just comes down to the mules. The orbital not really dropping another mule yet. Both of them getting the third base at the same time, so that's not an edge that Xenocider can claim for himself. But the upgrades are really starting to come through. Question is he going to invest into +2/+2 right away, or isn't he? A few units already taking a position there. Could go down in the third base. Not happening right now. Just trying to clear the rocks. But yeah, let's have a look at the upgrades. 1-1 upgrades are done. Does he start the 2-2 right away? He's going for blue flame already. And we have... there was a small battle. Xenocider needs to be careful. He is actually taking a little bit of beating in these small fights. Those skirmishes don't really end in his favor. His +1 is only halfway done, but it doesn't really look like we have Koma investing into the upgrades again. Maybe he didn't realize that his 1-1 is already completed. That might be another issue. But he's not utilizing the double armory, and that's always... If you don't hit a timing, and then you just leave your upgrade buildings like this, it's always a bit tricky. But now he's looking at an advantage, and that's something that he might be able to carry into a potential win in the fight. Xenocider has to pause here, but this is where Koma really tries to do some damage. So if we look at the army supply, which you can't really do, we have roughly 56 against 65. So a slight advantage for Xenocider in terms of the army size. The numbers are, on the other hand, pretty decent for his opponent. Like right here, we have the Thors over there, we have also the siege tanks here. So this third base is pretty much wide open. The problem is that the siege tanks have to go into a good spot. If he has the siege tanks, let's say for example on the high ground or on the ramp or somewhere else, and they are controlling this point, this position, then he can just control it, and as soon as the units move down, they get immediately shot at, while the Hellions move in here and try to do their damage there. So that's something that he can do if he wants to really force a battle right now. But the Thors alone are able to take quite a lot of shots if he's moving down to that into that position and tries to really defend his third, because that's what he will have to do. And at the same time, Koma doesn't really, I mean, if he can get a position at the third base, it's great, and he can kill a few units here, maybe they'll move back, but he is also already getting another base. He's getting that base currently here right at the bottom, so he will be fine that way. And there's the siege up. Siege up for the siege tanks, and now here's the move in. Siege tank shots going off right away. Really good position for him, exactly what we talked about. SCVs have to move back. We already have additional income now for Koma, being on 3 bases. Vikings trying to take down the orbital command. SCVs should just wait for the repair here. And now the Raven about to be taken out. So it's not a battle that he can really take, but he's one. Ah, nice. Nice snipe on the Raven by Xenocider. But he's delaying that third base, and at the same time this third is already mining and the fourth coming up. So very important position here. And that Viking battle, keep in mind that there is an upgrade advantage. There is an upgrade lead right now. But of course with the additional Raven and the point defense drone, it's a very different battle. And now with the Vikings on the ground, they can never go back up again unless they have a bit of support. And there's the support coming in right away. But at the same time, Xenocider is moving out, and Koma has to be careful. Yes, he has a sieged up tank position, but we have those Thors, and they are really beefy. Now we have Viking versus Viking, but another bad spot here. Koma is losing way too much. I'm not sure if that was really worth it. He's lost a huge chunk of his army, has the better income, yes, but he needs to get that army back into the game. Here now, the command center, but at this point already a much better income, of course, for Koma. Not gonna last too long. Xenocider is gonna be able to just make that happen a little bit better, to just like close that gap once more. And he started his +2/+2, and that's bad news for Xenocider, who's looking at a +1 attack upgrade and nothing else. Hasn't even started the +1 armor upgrade. So in terms of like income, as you can see, starts to even out a little bit more again. But we already have this command center going over for potential planetary at the 4th position. So with there's like a drop, but that drop was of course seen miles away with the additional sensor towers. Koma is playing a very stable game. A very stable game with the sensor towers, but he lost quite a few units here. 8 harvesters killed, but in comparison to the 22 that were taken out by Koma over the course of the game, it's not too bad. And Xenocider is starting to fall a little bit behind. I mean, he's still on the same overall supply, but it's a tricky position for him to be in, especially with a Canadian player already claiming his 4th base. So very tricky. And now looking at that, we have 2-2. I mean, +2/+2. Nearly completed. Xenocider now finally adding the 2nd armory, but it's looking quite grim for him. He tries to make those drops work, and I really like that. If he's somehow getting in there would be great, but it's just difficult against the sensor tower. So he has to be really careful that he doesn't move into a trap. But the lead that we have for Koma is absolutely gigantic. So Xenocider with a good position might be able to change that, but right now he also has to deal with another drop here. A couple of Hellions, not too many, but enough to take down those 2 and maybe even move farther in, but there are 2 siege tanks still. We have a battle in the middle of the map on the other hand, and oh my god, Xenocider is getting crushed here. The upgrades really coming through. 2-2 against 1-0 upgrades. That's good for the Vikings, that's good for the siege tanks, and that is just a position where, oh my god, Xenocider is getting slaughtered here. Koma is in an absolutely great position today. He's in good shape. He wins it with a 2-0 and he advances to the WCS America Season number 1. Congratulations to Koma. Really well played. A deserved victory here. A 2-0 over Xenocider, who will have to try to qualify in the 3rd qualifier for America. Congratulations once again to Koma. Really well played today. Good job.